Hey guys, okay, so as I promised in last week's video, in this week's video, what we're going to talk about is the difference between Brisbane City Council's flood awareness mapping and the flood overlay mapping in the interactive mapping system. So, as a town planner, I personally think there are three key differences. First and foremost, the interactive mapping, the flood overlay mapping there is a regulatory tool. So the rules are tied to that mapping. Whereas the flood awareness, as the name suggests, is more about building public awareness. It doesn't have the legislative backing. So yeah, when it comes to whether you trigger an application, don't trigger an application, the rules, all of that sort of stuff, you need to focus on the flood overlay in the interactive mapping system. Next key difference is the timeframes, or timeframe's the wrong word. The accuracy, the can't think of the word right now. I'm struggling. I haven't had a coffee this morning. Basically, the interactive mapping system is lagging in terms of how up-to-date the data is, whereas the flood awareness system is a more nimble kind of system. So as council goes through and they do some updated modelling and all of that sort of stuff, they can implement the updated modelling pretty much straight away into the flood awareness mapping. Whereas to update the flood overlay mapping takes a very, very long time. You've got to go through the state government, do the planning scheme updates. It's painful. So yeah, the overlay mapping is kind of a little bit behind the times. Generally speaking, the flood awareness mapping is more ahead of the time, well, not ahead of the times, it's more up to date, let's just say. And last but not least, the flood awareness mapping is more multidimensional, let's just say. So flood overlay mapping literally just shows the overlay mapping for the purpose of planning scheme and therefore triggering an application, all of that sort of stuff. Whereas the flood awareness mapping has the different categories of overlay mapping, potentially more up-to-date versions, like I said, but it also then gives you historic data. So I think it has the 1974, 2011, and 2022 layers in there. So as the name suggests, it's all about building public awareness. If you go in there, you get a more well-rounded, multi-dimensional picture. You're not just looking at one source or type of information. So which one do you look at in which situation, all that sort of stuff? I always say to clients, you want to look at both sources. You want to get as much information as you possibly can. You need to keep in mind the interactive mapping version is just there to tell you whether you need a planning application, but you want to take into consideration the other mapping as well when designing a renovation extension, all of that sort of stuff. Okay, that is my rapid fire introduction to the difference between those two systems. Hopefully that all makes sense. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got three. Number one, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number two, Brisbane Town Planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number three, what was my number three? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all.